Welcome back, friends, to another exciting day of Let's Playing here, where we visit only the brightest of childhood memories. Today we're going to be taking a look at THQ's masterpiece, Quest 64. Of course, this is a bit of a tongue-in-cheek masterpiece, because there's quite a bit wrong with this game. We're going to go ahead and let the intro play out, because it really doesn't matter. It's going to give me enough time anyway to get all the basic things off my chest that I want to say about this. First off, Quest 64 is by and large an unfinished game. Celtland, an island where magical spirits abound. This is the abode of magicians who become powerful through the pact with spirits. These are apprentices of the Mailroad Monastery, among them the young apprentice Brian. So originally, Quest 64 is going to be a game called Magical Monastery Century or something like that. That's because originally it was going to have 3 playable characters. Kenishire. This is the kingdom of northern magic, home to Mailroad Monastery. This kingdom is ruled by the king Scotford, a hero of the people. Yes, this game seems originally designed to have taken sort of a Scottish monastery type theme, but that really doesn't come through other than the names. Carmog, the kingdom of merchants, is situated in the central region of Celtland, the richest and most beautiful of all kingdoms, ruled by some queen. We don't care about her. All of this is actually almost more story right now than we're going to get in the entire game, all talking about all the cities and whatnot. Highland, the kingdom of the sword, located in the southern edge of the Isles, a kingdom of fire and steel, ruled by the ambitious and warlike King Belgius. So yes, originally this game was going to have 3 characters. They were all going to have different abilities, thanks to a treaty among the 3 kingdoms. The people lived in peace and prosperity. But THQ is involved, and THQ was not good at finishing their RPGs. One night, however, the monastery fell under an evil spell with the theft of an ancient book. So THQ went on to make a series of games, actually, with similar mechanics to Quest 64. Because of the theft, Celtland now faces dangers it has never known before. I'm sorry, I know I'm having like 2 conversations with you at the same time. Anyway, THQ went on to make a string of games with similar mechanics to Quest 64. Almost none of them were finished. Almost all of them are some of my favorite games of all time. So, let's go in to the largely unfinished and aptly named Quest 64. Look at that beautiful green-pink font. The Grand Abbot. The game starts, of course, with us being Brian in a monastery. We did not get to name our character. That was a cut piece of content for some reason. Brian, even though I've begged you not to leave, you still say you must go after your father. No matter how wonderful your powers may be, you are still a child. Your father, Lord Bartholomew, left to search for the stolen Elatel book and has been missing for a month. No wonder you were worried about him. Contained in the words of the book is a power that exceeds human knowledge. I wonder who could have possibly stolen it from the crypt of the monastery. Well, it certainly wasn't that warlike King Belgius, right? If an evil person should use it, the country and all its cities will be destroyed. The spirit's blessings will disappear, and Celtland will once again be visited by a day of grief. Bartholomew's disappearance may mean he is caught in the fighting over the book. If you go, you may find yourself in danger as well. If you still insist, begin by going to Dondoran. Dondoran? I'll ask the king of Dondoran Castle to protect you. Yeah. So we're going to bop around the monastery here and pick up a bunch of stuff. It's not a lot exciting to say, so we'll just go over more of what Quest 64 was originally supposed to be. Originally, you were supposed to get 3 party members. Brian here was going to be the fighter mage, probably with a focus on offensive abilities. You were also going to pick up a princess after the first city, and she was going to be your typical water, well, not water mage, but just your defensive caster. As you get close to a hidden spirit, you will see a sign. When you see it, oh yeah. This is unimportant. She's just teaching us how to level up our character, basically. And this is one thing about the game that I actually really like. And I think, interestingly, there are far more things about this game that I like than that I don't like. First off, you can gain EXP by just fighting things, and you can gain levels by doing that. But scattered about the world are these little spirits, and if you find them and pick them up, well, you gain a level. It really removes kind of the burden of being forced to grind. Now, I'll just... let me just get this right. I'm not quite used to the Xbox controller here. All of these rooms are pretty pointless. I don't even think there's any NPCs in them. Kind of... It's like your first taste of how unfinished the game is. Like, in fact, let's just go into one of these. But these are all of these rooms are exactly like this. They're just these empty rooms. And I know I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but I really want to play the game, the sequel to Quest 64, which isn't actually a sequel at all. It's a totally different game. But it feels very much like this game. Oh, there is an NPC in here. Anyway. The sequel to this, or not really a sequel, Aiden Chronicles, suffers from the exact same problem. The design team just had some really weird quirks that they carried over from game to game. Brian, the wooden scepter you carry and the magic spells you acquire through your journey are your only means of defending yourself against encounters with the enemy. And she's not wrong. Since we only have one party member in the game, oh my goodness, is the combat completely reliant on just you and your ability to blast things away. Leave now, Brian. In his last letter, Lord Bartholomew said he crossed Lac Kildare on the way to Larapool. Be very cautious, evil creatures lie in wait beyond these monastery walls. You know, we're not quite ready to leave, old man. It is interesting the game takes on a very Scottish kind of approach with the Highlands and the Larapool and all that kind of stuff. We are recording on RetroArch, so this is an emulation, so you might see a couple weird things. Just to prove I'm not a cheapskate. Okay, you can see that there. I do have my own copy of Quest 64, beloved from my childhood. It's just so much easier to get footage on a emulator. Also, I believe this... I'm not entirely sure, but I believe this emulator crispens the models. If you see here, our models are really nice resolution-wise, whereas things in the background are not. I'm not 100% sure on that, but these... I don't know. They look better than they did on the N64 for some reason. Spirit, please protect this young lad. Light the way and watch over him. We'll make offerings for your safety until you return. There are just so many NPCs in this game. So... Anyway, I think I was saying earlier about the spirits. One thing I wanted to mention is also, aside from lightening the burden of having to grind for levels, having spirits scattered about the world also promotes exploration, because you can be rewarded for going out of your way and finding something weird. Number two I like about this game is, and I should point it out now so that we can make the best of it. I don't know, we have some kind of weird pulpit here. Anyway. There, to my knowledge, is not a single NPC in this game that's been reused. Now, there's a couple where the sprites are very similar, and I'm sure they share base models or base rigging at some point or another. We're just gonna grab, I don't even remember what this is, bread or something? Honey bread. Anyway, yeah, another really interesting thing about this game is every NPC is different. Pat from the kitchen. Welcome to the kitchen, laddie. Your quest is sure to be a long one. Please take this fresh bread. I made it myself. But yeah, again, their clothing might be the same. Their faces are different. Their body structure is different. They really spend a lot of time making every single NPC unique. Which for this time is kind of unprecedented. Kind of wasted. Like, I kind of wish they had actually fixed their battle system and allowed you to have multiple party members. But hey, we'll take what we can get, right? This was still, you know, this is early on in the N64's days. Back coming off of, you know, the Super Nintendo, where sprites got used all the time, reused all the time. In fact, even today in games, sprites get reused all the time. So to have such an old game on a very old cartridge, you know, the N64 being the first in Nintendo's line of 3D consoles, they were so bold as to attempt to make unique NPCs for every single NPC. You also get a lot of nice shots like this that really show off the fact that your game is 3D. Now, I know off in the distance there, that's just a flat plane, those aren't actually trees. That's just a flat wall with texture of a bunch of trees. But still, you get a lot, like, that's point number 3 that's really nice about this game, is you get a lot of nice wide shots like that. Anyway, this is our first element that we're going to grab here. Spirit off in the distance. Nay, it is a horse. I think we missed a treasure chest back in the monastery, so I'm going to go back in. I'm getting a little distracted blabbing about this. But yeah, point number 3 that I can say in this game's favor is the environments are just big. And they did a really nice job of spreading out kind of like treasure that you can go out and find. There's never... Unfortunately, this is something bad about the game. You never equip anything. There's no equipment in the game whatsoever. It's kind of bonkers, really. Especially because you have literally just this one character, so it's super weird as far as an RPG goes. It's only the barest bones of an RPG. It's almost similar to the old Dragon Warrior games, or Dragon Quest, depending on your translation. The original one, right? Dragon Warrior 1? Dragon Quest 1? I can't even remember anymore what the actual title is. But yeah, I remember you just played as Loto, or Roto, depending on translation again. Which I think was just interesting that, you know, in these older RPGs, it was difficult to balance the game around a party, so oftentimes you just played as one character. Anyway, when you find a treasure... Oh, she's just teaching us how to open treasure chests. Spirits are hiding. She teaches us... I forgot none of the monks in here have anything useful to say. Most of them just teach you how to play the game. Okay, we are going to head out now. I'm pretty sure we got everything in the monastery. Point number 4. I should stop counting them. The music in this game is actually quite nice. I know that I'm going to be blabbing over a lot of it. In the music quality, like the quality of the sound is not that great, but the music itself is good. Just listen, it's kind of calm and peaceful. Anyway, if you haven't been able to tell, I love this game. A lot of people hated it. In fact, I think most people hated it. My friends think I'm crazy. I'm not alone. There are others out there, obviously, who love this game. If you're watching this, you probably like this game. But I think all my friends give me a friendly hard time for playing this so much. We'll just get... It's actually been quite a while since I've actually read what any of the NPCs say. Anymore these days, I just blow through everything and never listen to anything they say. So we're going to talk to all the NPCs just to see, but I don't know if they say anything important. I'm a pirate! Those monsters out there don't scare me. I want to be a spirit tamer, just like you when I grow up. Oh, by the way, I believe we're 12 or 13, depending on whether you trust the source material or not. Who's afraid of the big bad werehair? Werehair is a monster we'll fight. Brian, sometimes you will be able to need to use the B button to adjust your view. Right. Yeah, the B button, I think, centers the camera a little faster. Like that. It's a little bit like the Z button in Ocarina of Time, except worse. Baba Black Sheep. Okay, the sheep are repeated. Brian, when fighting, you will have two... Oh, he's just teaching us more of how to play the game. Unimportant. But we're the hero, so we're allowed to go in people's houses and steal things. Although, most of what we steal seems to be bread and food and other consumable items. Which begs to wonder, if we grew up in a monastery, we probably have no money. So we are forced to rob people. Because we're 12 years old, we need food, man. We're just scavenging for food at this point. You do get kind of a pointless area of the map here, but you can come over here and just stand in the water. As far as I know, there's no reason to be over here. Halt! Who goes there? Oh, it's you, laddie. Ever since your father went away, we've had to stand guard against the monsters that are surrounding our town. Lord Bartholomew was the spirit tamer, and we will not be safe until his return. What are you guarding against, man? This is just the ocean. What? Are you guarding it with a fishing pole? Alright. Yeah, again, I don't actually know if there's anything useful in these houses. In my head, I have these logged away as skip every time you play. It's getting dark, and my boys are still playing outside. I wish they would come home soon. Are you blind? It's not dark. Oh, there is night and day in this game, I think. Wait, did I make that up? Maybe there isn't night and day. Lately, I've heard that monsters have been seen along the roads. They even say a thief is hiding in the woods. With your father gone, there's no one to tame the evil spirits. We pray Lord Bartholomew can find his way back to us. Again, I know I keep saying it, but in my dark days of being a youth, I lived in a very, how to put this, backwater town. And the N64 had very few RPGs to begin with. So the fact that this was, albeit an extremely blocky, anime-esque RPG was so cool. Because, like, the NPCs here are very Japanese-looking, Japanese animation. Which is another thing I loved about it as a kid. I'll stop gushing. It'll run out eventually and we'll get back into the game and we'll be able to just focus without me blabbing. I'm sorry. Your father used to visit us often. He brought prosperity to all of us in Melroad. I guess your father is a pretty popular guy. Look at old man. Old man Jenkins. Look how angry he is. It's a story from long ago, but terrible misfortunes fell upon Celtland because of the Eltale book. Green fields were turned into deserts overnight, busy prospering towns disappeared, and the people became lazy. What? Are you sure that was a sign of the Eltale book? Or just a sign of people in general? Okay. What other buildings do we have? Elspeth. My children have gone out to play despite the dangers that lurk just outside our gates. I worry that the monastery will not be able to protect them much longer. Look at that old lady. Yeah, it's just weird to me they spent so much time making every NPC unique. Ready to travel, are you? Fine, we'll give you some white wings. They'll bring you back to Melroad anytime. It is important that you understand that wings will only work in wide open spaces. Take care. Now here's an interesting mechanic. Most cities will grant you these wings, right? They transport you back to the city. Now it's really cool that they allowed you to teleport back, and it's kind of neat because you actually have to go find the person who gives them to you. The thing I don't like is that they are consumable? I don't understand that one. Okay, this will be an important character. Shannon. Hello, Master Apprentice. I'm Shannon. I've been traveling hither and yon all over Celtland. I see you're setting out on a quest too. I trust we'll run into each other along the way. Yeah, Shannon will be important. Why do I feel like this guy is French? Or is this a woman? This woman is French. Well, I'm not going to impersonate a female French accent. Don't you feel tired, Master Apprentice? Please rest here for the night. We'll take good care of you. Will you stay? We will say no because we don't want it to become dark. But you'll notice quickly, this is kind of the problem with the game, right? There's all these NPCs. There's all these places to check, all these places to go. Not a lot of story going on. And no... I don't want to say no meaningful stuff, because we've opened a couple treasure chests, but there's not really any incentive to talk to any of the NPCs. There are many spirits in Celtland's fields and valleys, probably around the towns too. Only a true spirit tamer knows when the spirits are near. But yeah, like, that guy in there, somebody modeled him, somebody designed his entire outfit, just so we could walk in here once, talk to him, and leave. I don't know, man. I'm actually going to take a quick pause here. I'm afraid my audio is desynced? I'm gonna check on that. I'll be right back. Okay, I noticed that the sync was slightly present, not that bad, but still there. I've readjusted my recording settings. Hopefully that helps negate some of that sync issue. We'll see. But where were we? I think I was gushing about random things that you probably were getting tired of hearing about, so we'll focus a little more on the game now. Where does the game lead us at this point? Well, for starters, guys, if you didn't already know, get ready, because we're in this for the long haul. This is a JRPG, which means we're going to have our fair share at some point of some heavy grinding. Luckily, because of the way that the spirits work and you can go out and pick up spirits in the wild, so to say, because we are a spirits tamer, it's not too bad. And the beginning of the game is definitely the most fun because you're rapidly gaining new spells. That being said, there reaches a point in the game where the combat sort of breaks down, largely because you've either how to put this? You've either broken the game wide open, or your build, so to say, of Brian is no good, and you'll run into this kind of awkward spot where you just can't do anything. Oh, we lost the camera. What happened? Gosh darn it. Chezni is bootleg gear. Okay. Anyway, I think I was saying that you do reach a point where Brian is either properly built and you're just steamrolling everything, or Brian, you got a little bit experimental with your spells and it didn't work out. And that's oddly one of my favorite things about this game. This game is not easy. I don't know if easy is the right way to put it. I think what I can say is, as a child, even now as an adult, I prefer games that are mechanically interesting first, and then maybe have an interesting story second. This game mechanically is actually very interesting. I'm sure you already know, but for those few of you who perhaps for some reason are watching a video on Quest 64 for the first time, we'll go over some of the basics here. First, in combat is take turn. First you, then the enemy, then you, then the enemy. And I do mean it just like that. If there are multiple enemies, it will still go you, then the enemy, one of the enemies, then you, then the next enemy. And I think the reason they did that is because it's a band-aid solution to not having 3 party members like the game was originally planned to have. Little bit janky there as far as balancing out the game went, but hey, there you have it. Anyway, on each of our turns, you notice we have this octagonal shape that we can run around in. This octagon will increase as our speed increases, and it's supposed to represent the amount of space we could move in combat before the enemy could react. It simulates real-time movement. Now, if we run outside of the well, is this an octagon? Whatever. The outside of the battle arena, we can escape. It's guaranteed. You just escape. And I love that. I love that it's not like, hit the escape button and, oh, did you roll the dice correctly to escape? Nope. Well, then you're still stuck in the battle. I love the fact that you actually have to leave. You'll also notice that our arena, this is one of the first games I've seen do this like this. Although I can't say it's the first. It really isn't the first. Draken for like the Amiga, was it? Did this where you run into combat in the area that you're in. But maybe I can say this is one of the first 3D games I've seen do this, where literally when we run into a battle, it will be in the place that we were in, right? Like in our environment. There is no battle screen, which is super cool. We have our 4 elements. Each of the elements start out with a basic level 1 spell, and it's usually a good idea to use elements that are not what your opponent is using. So this is a Hellhound, so it would not be a good idea to use fire. We do have a rock spell. Let's see, what else do we have? We have a wind cutter spell, which is my personal fave, although it does tend to miss a lot early on. We'll go ahead and use our fire spell. It's just the same one that the enemy is using. In fact, you'll notice all enemies fight with spells that you can get in the game. And then we have a waterfall spell, which has a very short range, but is actually quite powerful. Like if we just do it like that, you can see 7, whereas our staff is doing about 4 to 6. Here we gained a level. It doesn't say we gained a level, but that's essentially what's happened. And we are putting points currently into our wind element. Now, there are technically multiple viable builds in this game. There are definitely some, I would argue one that is the best build, and it's the build we're going to use just simply so that you don't have to watch me grind and die a lot. But there are multiple elemental builds that you can go through the game, and the game is set up so that you're not going to have enough EXP in any one playthrough to get everything. I mean, if you wanted to grind for like days on end, yeah, I guess you could theoretically get 50 in every element. 50 is the limit. Oh, yeah, and there is night and day. But yeah, theoretically you could get like 50 in every element, but you're not going to. And in fact, you don't really need to. It's best to pick a build and kind of just stick with it. And a build in this case is just a general strategy of synergizing with your spells. Now, you won't know this the first couple times you play through the game. You won't know what elements give you what spells, and that's going to, of course, make it a little difficult the first couple times you play, but that also makes it sort of the most fun, because you're sitting here playing the game and you're like, oh man, what new spell am I going to get? You know, what new power am I going to get? You know, you level up an element and maybe you get something really cool, and then maybe you get something like kind of hot garbage and you're just like, well, that was pointless. But yeah, it creates a lot of fun the first couple times you play through the game, and a lot of replayability, like a lot of replayability. The fact that you only have one party member is very much offset by the fact that your single party member can be built in multiple ways, which is pretty cool. Okay, so we're putting all of our elements into wind, and the reason for this is because wind ends up being, in my opinion, early on the best element, and then near the middle of the game it's just kind of mediocre. It kind of tapers off as the game goes off. Like, it starts off being really good. You can see here we got to level 3 or 4, and now we have the second level wind spell, so we can actually do it like this, where we shoot out 3 blades instead of 1. Obviously much better. But what am I trying to say here? Yeah, the wind element, I think, is very good early on, largely because of its range. Early on, you don't have a lot of options, so kind of your best way to deal with a lot of enemies is just to stay away from them. And the Wind Cutter spell fires off at quite a long range, as well as homing in on the enemy. I mean, look how many times we've had to hit this thing. Can you imagine if we were right next to it using our staff? Although fire, obviously, would probably be fine. Fire also homes in on the enemy, but to a lesser degree, so it wouldn't be as good. And oh good, this is the first example we can show of how dynamic this battle system is, in the sense of you can move while the enemy is taking their turn. Now, this is super cool. This hare will use a Wind Cutter spell on us, and if we run around in a circle like that, we can dodge the wind blade. Now, if we stood still, we'd get hit, which is just really cool. Like, it adds this weird combination of take-turn RPG combat with real-time strategy. Yeah, I don't know. I know it's a little thing, but to me it's huge. Oops. I'm so used to games using dual analog to control the camera. Now, where are we? Gosh, I'm gonna check the map. It's really easy to get turned around in this game. We need to go north. Yeah, so if you haven't figured it out, early on, we have, like, nothing at our disposal, right, to use, as far as fighting anything goes. The werehares are okay to fight because we can fight them without taking damage, but other than that, a lot of the other enemies were probably guaranteed to take damage. Oh, we can get a staff on that. Staff is generally going to be your strongest option ever. It's almost always going to do more damage than your spells, which is interesting because we're a mage, right? Yet we have this super strong close range attack. And I think, again, that's because in the original inception of this game, Brian was going to be able to use swords. And so, but you can't change equipment. I don't know, maybe if they couldn't figure out how to make the models work or something. So because of that, it's almost like we deal damage as if we have a sword, but we use a staff. I don't know. Make of that what you will. Anyway, so oftentimes the staff is going to be your strongest option. It also, every time you hit an enemy, replenishes 1 MP, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it can be huge. Remember, the only way we have to fight enemies is with our spells. If we run out of MP, we got nothing. We have no way to regenerate MP in combat other than hitting things with our staff. So it becomes this really mechanically interesting challenge of figuring out how best to use your MP. Because yeah, you can blow your MP through in one battle and it's not a big deal, but over the course of multiple battles, you really need to be, especially before you've leveled up a lot in an area, you need to be conservative with your MP usage. Which again, I love mechanically because it creates this challenge, this constant challenge. You have to build Brian correctly. You have to, what am I trying to say? Fight intelligently. You have to dodge the enemy's attacks in combat. You have to use the right elements. You have to use spells that make sense for the situation. All of this is really good. And this is why, even though a lot of people, again, they say this game is garbage, I love this game. Admittedly, you know, once you've played through it a couple times, you won't have any trouble. I doubt we're going to have any trouble here, really. Especially because, again, we're going to be using the build that I consider to be the strongest. Or at least the easiest to use. Probably not actually the strongest. Probably the strongest build is a vampire build, where you spec hard into fire, and you get vampiric touch or something like that. And that's going to allow you to use your staff to deal damage and heal yourself. Now that strategy is also very risky. You have to really know what you're doing, because if you don't, wow, not lucky. If you don't, and you run up to an enemy with vampiric touch, and you lose your vampiric touch in the middle of a fight, and you didn't kill the enemy, and you can't kill him with another staff hit, you can find yourself in trouble. Typically, if you're closer to an enemy, they're going to deal more damage to you. Not with things like werehairs here, but later on we'll fight a lot more enemies that have close range attacks, as well as long range attacks. And that creates challenges when it comes to using your staff. Anyway, little by little you can see there our wind is doing a little bit more damage. I think that's a combination of your element level as well as perhaps a hidden stat based on Brian's overall spirit level. I'm not quite sure how it works. You'll find that you truly don't have a level in this game. Sure, your spirits individually have levels, but like you see here, this screen here, the status screen, this thing is awesome. We have HP, MP, defense, and agility. All of those things are raised by doing things that interact with those stats. So you gain HP by losing HP. You gain defense per hit that you take. So now that might sound the same, but it's not. It means that enemies that hit you multiple times for low amounts of damage will raise your defense much faster than they will raise your HP. Another look here at the nice ocean. Okay, I know it's N64 graphics, but whatever. I was like 10 at the time. Gosh, I wasn't even 10. Probably more like 7. Anyway, that was not the right spell. But yeah, we gain agility every time Brian dodges an attack. We gain agility just for moving. In fact, sort of an old strategy for people playing Quest 64 on the actual N64 was to like weigh down the joypad on the N64 controller and push Brian into a corner and just leave the game on overnight and come back, and that way you could gain a bunch of agility levels. The funny thing is, it really doesn't level your agility up that much. I'm not quite sure why. I don't know if maybe... I don't know. They probably didn't build a failsafe. I think it's just... agility levels up very slowly in general. So even leaving it on overnight with Brian running into a wall or something, you would only gain like 10 levels of agility or something. It certainly wouldn't be maxed out. Yeah, you see their agility 8. I think the real reason they limited the agility gain... I think there's a spirit back here. No? There's a spirit somewhere around here. Ah, there it is. I think the real reason they limited the agility gain was just so you can move across the entire battlefield in one turn. Travelers don't show up here very often. It seems that it isn't safe anywhere on the roads these days. I see a future for you fraught with danger and challenges that no ordinary human could meet. It isn't clear, but your destiny awaits you at the end of your longest road. Now, I keep hearing a bit of audio desync here. I'm going to be monitoring this, and I don't want to just keep telling you every time I pause the game, but I am going to pause at certain points just to check the audio and try and see if I can fix some of these sync issues. So I'm going to pause here. You might see me pause in my timeline a bit, but for you it'll be all edited out. So okay, actually it really didn't seem as bad as I thought it was. Make sure everything's all lined up here. But yeah, I think I was mentioning that agility lets you move across the map. Does not level up quickly. What was the last one? MP. MP is pretty self-explanatory. The more spells you cast, the more MP you get. So I don't know. It's neat. It means that the first time you play through the game, your character will often have bonkers amounts of stats because you get lost and you have no clue where you're going. And then the quote, better you are at the game, you're going to be moving through areas a lot faster. And that is going to reduce the amount of MP that you get, the amount of HP that you get, because you're not taking as much time in combat, or rather you're not encountering as many battles. But, okay, so you can see here already, we've got 7 levels in Wind, and already we're actually dealing quite a bit more damage. And again, this is why Wind early on is probably the best element, because it ramps up per blade, right? So at the beginning, it seems like the weakest, because we're shooting out 1 blade for 2 to 3 HP. Then you're shooting out 3 blades for 2 to 3 HP. And now we're shooting out 3 blades for, 4 to 6 HP. It ramps up per blade, and it just keeps getting better and better. We've learned Restriction, which is a silent spell, I believe, that targets one enemy, and Evade, which just increases our evasion. Not our agility, but our evasion. So, those status spells, they have their place. There are a couple times where Restriction is actually a useful spell. I don't want to act like all the status spells in this game. That's kind of the thing, right? In a lot of JRPGs, status spells are just useless. I don't know why Japan keeps putting them in games when they're not going to balance them in a way that makes them useful. So like our evade spell, probably never use it. There's also this really funky mechanic, and I'm trying to recall it correctly so I don't tell it to you wrong, but there is a mechanic where I think if you get hit, you lose whatever status effects you have. So if you cast evasion and get hit, you lose your evasion. Now, I guess that kind of feeds into itself, right? Like, oh, it's good because evasion reduces your chance to get hit, therefore increasing the amount of time it sticks around, which is sort of true. But the real issue is that status effects like Vampiric Touch, Armor, like, why does your Armor spell leave you if you get hit? Now, I think I'm recalling some of that a little bit incorrectly. I think maybe there are some statuses that do stick around after you get hit. We won't be using very many status effects anyway, so I don't know if we're going to be able to prove or disprove that memory I have. If somebody remembers that, correct me if I'm wrong. Talking to Curtis here. Farther along this road is Dondoran and the Connor Forest. Don't get careless in the woods, a robber is about. Yeah, he's not wrong. Bosses in this game are nothing to mess with lightly. Like, did we already get the spirit out here? We must have. Bosses are a real challenge, and I would say they are a gear check, except for the fact that there's no gear in this game. So it all comes down to how you've built Brian and how you play him. It really is a challenge, like figuring out how to last through the boss's onslaught. Now, of course, again, we're going into this with a lot of prior knowledge, and I don't think any of the bosses are going to give us trouble. But if you go into this blindly, you can get really screwed over by some of the bosses, especially if you've spent your spells, or your spirits rather, in kind of odd places. It's going to create a real uphill battle, because even though you don't have a level, you have this. This little thing in the middle will fill up, and when it reaches 100, we get to choose an element, right? Or a... yeah, they're called elements. Spirit. But that fills up slower and slower every spirit that you get that way. Now, the spirits that we pick up lying around in the world, that does not increase the amount of... I don't know what to call it. I'm going to call it EXP, even though it's not, like, listed as EXP. But the amount of EXP, right, required to raise that bar, or that sphere in the middle up to 100%, increases each time it fills up. So it can get really difficult if you built yourself wrong, and you need like 10 more levels in another element to get a spell that you really need, but you've picked up all the spirits in the world, and you just are stuck grinding against the same enemies over and over and over again for what feels like an infinity. Again, though, the spirits you pick up in the world do not increase Brian's invisible level stat, so, which is genius from a design / balance standpoint, because otherwise the strategy would be never pick them up until the end of the game, when it costs a ton to level up, and then you go back through the entire game and pick up all the spirits, right? Because then each spirit would be worth way more EXP, but because it doesn't even factor into the EXP stat, you're free to just pick them up throughout the game, which is how it should be. It's very cool. But again, if you're watching this, get prepared for the long haul, because as many good things as I have to say about this game, we will run out. I will run out of things to say. And we'll be stuck with the long journey of pressing through battle after battle. Mabel is talking to us. I thought I'd treat you to a drop of morning dew, but you already have some. Well, next time perhaps. Right. There are certain NPCs scattered about that will give you items if you don't have any. You can see here we already have a dew drop, which is odd because she calls it a morning dew. Yeah, I don't know why the name difference there. There is no gold in this game. Gold in this game. There are no shops. So the way they get around it is it scans your inventory, and the NPC will give you an item if you don't have that item in your inventory. I'm a clay digger. Rocks is his name. But I can't go into the woods because of the robber. What to do? Can't work. Can't do it. Not today. They say the robber is using an old fort in the forest as a stronghold. It's dangerous to set foot outside the city while he is about. There's always some fresh bread here for you. Come again when you run out. Where'd he go in here? Yeah, we totally did this. I went in here. Talk to us, dude. You're the Melroad Magician's apprentice, aren't you? Your quest is very difficult. I'll give you yellow wings. They ought to help. You must remember that wings will not work in forests or caves. It is kind of neat because the wings will allow you to zip around to weird places, especially when you're at the end of the game. You can come back and just pop back into the original town. Old man. Old man Sensei. Or Old man Walter. Everyone talks about the robber in Connor Forest. It's frightening. He sneaked into the castle. Sneaked? Wouldn't it be he snuck? Or is snuck a word? Gosh, it's not. Tricked the guards and stole a precious stone. The stone he took is called the Earth Orb. It was used a long time ago to restore calm to a great disaster that befell Celtland. Alright. Assume this is an inn. An inn. We're going into an inn. Hello, Shannon. It's nice to meet you again, Master Apprentice. I'm surprised you made it this far so quickly. I assume you've heard that a robber is hiding in the forest not far from here. He has blocked off the road to Loch Kildery. Just our luck. We're stuck here until the road opens again. Oh, we'll open the road, Shannon. And I know you could open the road too if you really wanted to. But she's not. Alright. Come on, old man. Talk to us. Gilbert. Welcome to Dondoran, the town of pottery. Master Apprentice, what can we do for you? Won't you spend the night? Yeah, we'll spend the night here. Using the ye old memory card. I love it. Oh man, guys. I'm sure some of you had memories like this, but when I was a kid, I did not have a memory card, and I don't want to throw my parents under the bus because they were loving, very, very loving parents. I love my parents. But they were, let's just say that the one in charge of, how to put this? The one in charge of purchasing video games for me, or that sounds funny. The one who made the decision of whether or not I could purchase equipment for video games or video games in general did not enable me to do so. So there was a time when I played this game multiple times without a memory card. I've just arrived here in Dondoran from across Loch Kildery, but there is a robber in the woods and there's no way to get back. Yeah, everyone's talking about the robber. Anyway, so I have very fond memories of playing this game non-stop, trying to do it all in one sitting. It's not that possible. Have you heard the news? A robber is living in Connor Forest. He's become so bold that he stole the precious treasure right out of the castle. It's unbelievable! Inconceivable! It's a really big courtyard, but I don't think there's anything even out here that's worth... No spirits. That is the grumpiest looking guard. Oh, it's a female guard. Crystal? Welcome to Dondoran. You are the lad from Melroad Monastery, aren't you? King Scotford. Why don't you just name him Lord British? Is waiting in the throne room. Yeah, I think that's a female guard. That's cool. Very progressive. Grant, a hearty welcome to you, Master Apprentice. The Grand Abbot informed us you were coming. Now, this castle is huge. And right away, you'll kind of encounter the same problem that we've been encountering in multiple sections of the game. I do want to point this out really quick. If you can bypass this fence and go down in there, you can actually enter a load zone. Somebody did a video on it. It was really cool, like all these hidden loading zones that take you to weird areas. Anyway, you'll notice, again, sort of the problem of this game is there are these huge environments, or at least for the time, these huge environments, like this massive castle with all these rooms and all these little things inside, and nothing, right? Like, this whole room... Okay, I guess there's an NPC in here. Since a thief broke in here just recently, everyone who comes in here has to be identified. I'm sure someone from the monastery can be trusted. But yeah, aside from that NPC, who by all accounts and purposes does nothing to forward the actual plot, does nothing to give us items, or mechanically speaking, does nothing to forward the game, exists in that room where, you know, all this stuff was designed, and it wouldn't change... Oh, we just went back again. Wouldn't change anything if we didn't go in there. In spite of the number of times I've played this, even I get lost in this place. It's funny, it gets worse in, I'll just tell you, the spiritual successor to this game is a game known as Aiden Chronicles. It is a dumpster fire of a game, and it is my favorite game for the N64. And Aiden Chronicles also suffered from this problem, except about 20 times worse. Oh my goodness, the first castle you're in is just this confusing mess of door after door after door after door. Like, you see me here wandering around in this, and you might be tempted to think, oh, this looks pretty bad. This is nothing. This is nothing compared to the castle in Aiden Chronicles. Anyway, what we're looking here is... we're trying to find the princess. Well, it's a magician's apprentice. This is Princess Flora's room. You should see the king... wait, what? I think I read that wrong. Oh my gosh. Should the king see a trespasser enter here, there will be an uproar. Yeah, I think they're trying to do the tee-hee, you're in the princess's room kind of thing. But it's not really important. But look how cool this character is! Okay, this was supposed to be your second party member. She was supposed to be the defensive spellcaster. Although, oddly, we see here she has a sword. And I should probably read what she has to say. Yeah, so they gave her a sword. I'm not really sure... like, clearly she was supposed to be the fighter, right? You enter unannounced, your manners are worse than a thief's. But there's something about you. You're a magician, aren't you? Wait. Is that my phone? That's odd. Hang on. This playthrough is quickly becoming the comedy of errors that is... how many times can Chezni be interrupted while playing the game? Alright. You enter unannounced, your manners are worse than the thief's. But there's something about you. You're a magician, aren't you? Have you come to help us capture the thief? I wanted to go after him myself, but father forbade me to leave the castle. I command you to go into the forest, find the thief, and return our rightful possessions. If you have the courage, my father will reward you handsomely. It's really too bad we didn't get her on the team. Would have been nice to have some actual inter-party dialogue. But anyway, we can rob her room, which has all sorts of things in it. Alright. Yeah, the third party member is a character that I'm not even sure we can find an NPC model for. He was a pirate, and was supposed to be your heavy damage dealer. Probably your tank. I would imagine that Brian probably dealt the most damage. The girl was your healer, traditionally. And the pirate probably had the best armor. It's usually how those things go. Other than the princess's room, I don't think there's anything else we can actually get in here. So we're just going to go straight to the king's room. The throne room, I should say. Oh, another dude. Look how sad that guard is. You startled me. I thought that you might have been the thief coming back for more. We never suspected that one man could pose such a threat to our castle, but his magic was overpowering. The castle guards went after him, but they were no match. I am still nursing my wounds. When fighting Solvering, now this isn't clear, but Solvering is the thief's name, try to avoid his close range attack. It does too much damage for such a small lad as yourself. And he's not wrong. Fighting Solvering in close quarters combat is tantamount to suicide unless you have ground Brian's stats into a fine powder. That pun made more sense in my head than after I said it out loud. Anyway, you have to grind a lot to survive Solvering's close range attacks. I'm so lost. Oh my goodness, we're back here. Okay. Anyway, the thief stole one of the 4 elemental orbs, and if you've ever played any fantasy game ever, you know that we need to collect them or something. Final Fantasy did this 1,000 times over. The plot in this is not amazing. The throne room is through here. These great doors. You have been cleared to pass. Please proceed. Make way. We have audience with the king. Felzen. I love that everyone has a name. It's so silly. Why have you kept us waiting? We've had a serious robbery here, and the king has no time to waste, so be quick about it. Alright, Felzen. Scottfort. So you are the master apprentice the Grand Abbot has written about. Welcome to Dondoran. I know you are searching for your father, Lord Bartholomew, you know, in case you'd forgotten, who is missing on his quest for the L-Tale book. I would like to help, but first I must take care of a matter most pressing. You may have heard of the brazen thief who stole the Earth Orb from my secret treasury. I sent my troops in pursuit, but they were helpless before the thief's black magic. Yeah, everyone uses magic in this game. He now blocks the road to Loch Kildery. If you are to continue your quest, the roads must once again be made safe. There is a secret passage here, which will become available to us later. Oh, there is more treasure. Forgot about this. Okay, Brian. Brian. Oh my goodness. There we go. Okay. So I think our quest is pretty clear. We need to go get that Earth Orb back from the thief.